Welcome to Ag Matters, covering positive agriculture stories from across Alaska on Big Cabbage Radio.
Hey, it's Tandy with Ag Matters Radio, and I'm really looking forward to my conversation today with Christy Allison. She's the Agricultural Revolving Loan Fund officer. Is that right?
That is correct.
All right, very good. So let's just kind of dig in. Tell me, what is the Agricultural Revolving Loan Fund?
Okay. It was established in 1953, and it was designed to promote the development of agriculture as an industry through the state by providing moderate interest loans. So we are not for profit. It is simply got an interest rate on any loan that we have just so that we can run the program. We have 6 different types of loans, and it's everything from farm development, which is loans to purchase property and construct non-residential improvements. We have chattel loans to purchase equipment or livestock. Short-term loans, also known as annual operating loans, are exactly that, such as seed, fertilizer, feed, planting, and harvesting costs. Then we have an irrigation loan, and that's to install irrigation systems and equipment. Product processing, and that's build, equip, and operate facilities, mostly processing type situations. And then clearing, and that's, of course, clearing the trees from the land so that you can actually have some agricultural products. Right now, our maximum availability to lend just changed to $3 million. So any one borrower can attempt to borrow up to $3 million. And our interest rates vary depending on which type of loan you go for, anywhere from 3% for the chattel loan, 4% for short-term loans, and all the rest of them are at 3.5%. That can't be beat by anybody. And we're just here trying to grow the agriculture. Yeah, do you want to hear about the process on how it all happens and give people an idea of how long it takes? And it's a little different than lending from a bank.
Okay, yeah, tell us all about it.
Alrighty, so there's a $50 application fee. Whenever we receive any kind of interest, we automatically send out the email with a list of required documents. And the number one thing that we want everybody to know is we're here to walk you through the process. We're not expecting you to know how to fill out all the documents. Feel free to call us, email us, anything. We want to be there through the whole thing, helping you through it. And then once we get all of the required documents, we take them to the Director of Agriculture, and he underwrites them for us and comes up with any questions, ideas that we maybe have not thought of. And then we go back to the client, try to get those answers, and come up with the best presentation of their application possible. And then we meet with the Board of Agriculture and Conservation about once a month. They meet 8 times a year, and we present all of the loans that are ready at that time to the BAC. And then during that meeting, we go into an executive session. They debate on all of the loans, any questions about the farm plan, repayability, is there enough collateral, things like that. And then we come back into the public session, and they vote publicly on whether to deny or accept that loan. And at that point, I contact everybody that day so that they know as soon as it happens whether they've been approved or not. The majority of time, it takes about a month because we have deadlines that we have to have everything in so that we have time to underwrite, and then we send it to the board ahead of time so they have time to review it before the board meeting. Now, some of them can take longer because, it's a process, and let me pull up all these documents, and I'm not really sure how to write my farm plan. And so we walk through and try to help each client break down all of the steps to make it the best presentation. The people who are regular borrowers know the process, so theirs tends to go a little bit faster. They know what documents to turn in and things like that. And then the new people, we love to talk as much as possible. We have lots of emails, phone calls. Lots of times people come in. We absolutely love farm visits to try to visualize what they have planned, and that way we have a better story to tell the board and hopefully get their loan approved. But yeah, so minimum, it's about a month, and then it can take any longer than that depending on the client and how prepared they are with their story.
Okay, wow. All right. So I have a few questions based on what you had to say. This sounds like it could potentially be very helpful, especially those low interest rates. That's pretty incredible. So where is this loan coming from? Is this coming from the federal government? Is it from the state of Alaska? Where is it ultimately coming from?
So it originally came from the state of Alaska. In 1953, they put a bucket of money into this program. This program has been self-sustaining ever since. The interest rate pays for the people who operate it, any kind of financial, like we go to financial services and they take payments and send out billing notices, things like that. So the cost, that's why there's an interest rate at all. But yeah, it was the state put a large sum of money. It started off actually with just a couple of million, and then throughout the years it went up and up and up, and then the statute says it maxes out at $75 million. It can never be bigger than that. But we don't have that much in there right now. We currently have about $22 million in there, and we are lending out and trying our best to make sure that money is not just sitting in a pot. And so the majority of that is actually out in our farms currently. So we still have some to lend, and anytime somebody pays off their loan, that just gives us that money to put it right back out there into another farm.
Nice. So I want to break these sections down just a little bit, your loan types. Let's dig into those just a little bit deeper, because I have a chart in front of me that says, so we'll start with a farm development loan, and that seems pretty straightforward. Loan to purchase property and construct non-residential improvements. So let's say I'm looking at a piece of property. Let's say I'm looking at 20 acres in Talkeetna, and so we could potentially, this loan could cover the cost of the property plus maybe to build some greenhouses or something like that too. Is that correct?
That is absolutely correct. The farm development loan is all-encompassing. It is from start to finish of purchasing the farm, the equipment, the livestock, what you need. It would fill all of that purpose. Or if you have a farm already and you want to expand and you have, another 100 acres that you would like to buy that's beside you or down the road, that's another reason why the farm development loan would be used.
Oh, I see. Okay. And what about things like maybe building a website or things like that? Because that's a kind of an important part of building a farm as well, is the online presence. Does it include things like that?
We do. Whenever somebody has their farm plan and they say that they're going to use their funds for building either like a barn or buying the business, and sometimes there's enough left over and they're approved for that amount. So as long as they're using it for the agricultural purposes, and that includes marketing, that's perfectly fine with us. We're very happy about that. There is no specific loan for marketing, though. We would probably put that under the product processing, because that would go along with, getting that product out there. But we can do small loans. I mean, we can go down to $5,000, $1,000, whatever they need. That's actually not been something that's been too popular. Nobody's really asked about that side of getting a loan for.
Okay. So the farm development loan, it says the interest rate is 3.5%. You will loan up to $1 million, and the terms are up to 30 years. So that is helpful for someone who's just getting started, because if the terms are too short, then the payments are going to be so high it's hard to get going. So it seems like this would be really beneficial for someone who's just starting out, or like you said, wanting to expand, and, expansion always takes a minute too, right?
Absolutely. Farming has just grown in costs. So that limitation has actually recently went up to $3 million.
Oh, $3 million.
So, yep, anyone borrower on the farm development loan can go up to $3 million, and it's still 30 years. But, the farms 20 years ago, $1 million would have bought a large set of acres and equipment and everything. And now that's a relatively small number whenever you're looking at large-scale farms. And so we had to raise that limit up to $3 million, and that's still really close to what things cost. But at some point, we have to tap that out and say they just can't give out more than that. But yeah, so that's why it's up to $3 million, and it's 3.5%, 30 years, and it can be if somebody wants, $500,000 and they want to do it for 10 years. That's a possibility. It's just you max out at $3 million, and you max out at 30 years.
Okay, all right, that makes sense. All right, and then next would be the chattel loan, which is a loan to purchase equipment or livestock. And again, that seems pretty straightforward. So what types of things would be included in this loan, and what types of things would not be included in the chattel loan?
Okay, so tractors would be included, any kind of farm equipment, and that includes let's say that you have a dairy farm and you want to have some kind of machine that helps with the milking of the cows or processing the milk. That would either be equipment or a processing loan, so it could fall under either one of those, just depending on how you want to use it, and then the interest rate and the time that you have to pay it off. We could kind of manage it between those. The one thing that this loan cannot do is boats or planes. We cannot finance either one of those. It's just a high-risk purchase, and so it doesn't cover those things. Chattel loans would not include like startup costs for nurseries or anything like that, like seed or fertilizer, or even wages for the employees at the beginning of the season. It's strictly equipment, livestock, and things like that.
Okay, so but if you were, say, a person was, I'm trying to come up with real life examples. Say a person wanted to start a hatchery. You could purchase your breeding stock through this loan, correct?
Absolutely. Yep. Absolutely.
Okay. And that one is 3% interest. And is that one $1 million maximum?
That one is $1 million at this time for 7 years, and that's why, because it maxes out at 7 years, and $3 million would be really hard to pay off at 7 years.
Sure it would. Okay, all right. Okay. And then your short-term loan, and that's the loan to finance annual expenses such as seed, feed, fertilizer, planting, and harvesting. And it looks like the interest rate's a little higher at 4%. The maximum loan is $200,000, and that would be paid off yearly, correct?
That is correct.
So this is just maybe to get, especially for someone who's just getting started, when you're wanting to get some seed or things to get you through until harvest. Yep.
And then a lot of farmers rely on, at the end of the season, when they're paying their employees and they're finishing out the year, come springtime, they need fertilizer and seed. And so they know that every year they plan on getting, $50,000 to $100,000 to purchase seed and fertilizer. And that's, by the time harvest comes, it's usually not even a year before that is paid off. They usually pay it off at the end of harvest season. And so, yes, it's a little bit higher interest rate, and it's usually paid off even sooner than a year, though. So it tends to be even lower than that 4% whenever they actually pay it off sooner.
Okay. And then this one I just wanted to inquire about because it surprised me a little bit. You have irrigation loans up to $1 million, 30-year maximum terms, and 3.5%. So this wouldn't be just to lay some drip tube. I mean, we have 5 acres of orchard that we've laid drip tube for, and I mean, it's our commercial farm, but it was nowhere near $1 million. So what I just, in my own little simple brain, what does a $1 million irrigation look like, and who's using this specifically?
That is a good question, and I have not seen a $1 million irrigation loan yet. So nobody has made it up to $1 million. It's a possibility. It's just not something that people tend to use. We have very few irrigation loans because most of the time if you're installing irrigation equipment, it's usually because your farm is new, and they end up doing just the farm development loan, and that encompasses everything. Now, if somebody's expanding and they have this field and it's all ready, it just doesn't have any kind of irrigation, that's when they would use this. It's usually people who have already been farming and they're just moving into another area because new farmers would just simply go with the farm development.
Okay, that makes sense. All right, and then product processing, loans to build, equip, and operate facilities to process Alaskan agricultural products. That's 3.5%, $250,000, 30 years. Tell us a little bit about what is a product processing loan? What is that covering?
Absolutely. And so that maximum has been raised to $500,000. And it would be anything from harvesting machines whenever you have like a potato sorter, things like that, or anything that would convert your product into another product. It also would be storage, like cold storage, things like that. And then let's say you have a slaughter farm, it might be some equipment needed to like freezers or some kind of slicing. And there's these really interesting saws that like are attached to the ceiling, and you pull them down, and so it would be things like that. I mean, those would also, because it's so small, it would be more of a processing loan than a chattel loan, even though it's equipment, but it's a small piece of equipment. But yeah, so anything that can convert, and then there's packaging. So if you converted your grain into flour and you need to package it, it would be the cost of any of the equipment for packaging it, sealing it, and then the actual packaging itself, the plastic or, the containers, whatever it's going to be put into. And some of the things like the flours, the processing of the flours could be something where it converts from peonies to biostimulants. So the process, the things that are needed to convert that material into another material would be a product processing loan.
Okay, I see. And then we've got a lot of businesses starting up, small businesses with using freeze dryers to freeze dry some of the local foods. I'm sure that would be included in there, right?
Absolutely. Yep. Freeze dryers, all of the packaging for that, labels. That would be where the marketing would probably come in as well.
Okay, all right. And then your last one is land clearing. And I had to chuckle when I was preparing for this and I read this. It says $250,000, 3.5% for 20 years. We just had some land cleared last year, but all we had them do was do the clearing, and so we're doing the finishing product, which to me translates as picking up sticks and 2 acres of stick picking upping. I thought, oh man, yes. I'd pay somebody to do that. That's a lot of sticks to pick up. Yeah, so this is all really interesting. So are any of these loans revolving loans, or are they one-time loans and you keep applying, especially the short-term loan that's a year? Are people getting this over and over?
Yes. So at this time, the revolving part of the definition of our funding is the fact that it comes into us and we put it back out into the community. None of the loans themselves can continue past what they're, so if it was a 30-year loan and they paid it off, they don't get that $1 million again for another 30 years or even the annual loan. Now, that is something I'm hoping to change. I would like a line of credit, something that I want to take to the legislation and hopefully update our statutes so that we can have something where that money is set aside, so we're not lending everything out. If somebody needs an annual operating loan for $50,000 and we've lent everything out come next year, they're going to struggle to get their fertilizer or their seed. And so my idea is to hopefully get legislation to adapt a regulation that we can have maybe a one-time approval of a limited amount, maybe up to $100,000. And then that will last, maybe 3 to 5 years, and then it gets reviewed every year just to make sure it's, doing good and it's being paid back. And then after the time period of 3 to 5 years, then they have to apply again, possibly changing the amount, adjusting the interest rates, and things like that. So that's one of the things I'm actually working on. Okay,
well, that sounds like you've got lots of great future prospects, and it does sound like you guys have worked really hard to keep things current too, because $1 million used to sound like a lot of money, and man, you start looking into anything now, and it seems like you could do it used to be how could you spend $1 million, and now it would be 3 checks and you're done. So.
Exactly. Most of the land is, hundreds of thousands of dollars. So one of the smallest ones we saw was about $750,000. Once you get that, what are you going to use for equipment or building a barn, So that'll easily take you past $1 million. And then some of these farmers in Alaska, we noticed that, our farmers are starting to age out. And so we have some younger, maybe their children or some people just around the state saying, you know what, I've worked on a farm my whole life. It's time for me to run one. And so they want to buy out the farmer. Well, if they have an extremely large, established, well-organized farm, that's definitely going to be worth more than $1 million. And so that new farmer that's trying to buy them out needs a bigger loan. And so that's what that's for.
So if a person was just starting out and they wanted to buy a farm, but they also needed a tractor and they also needed some product processing, are they getting 3 separate loans, or are you just kind of rolling it all up into one?
That's a good question, and it depends. The answer is it's up to the board and it's up to the applicant. The applicant may want, a chattel loan for 3 years, and they know that they can pay equipment off faster by doing that, and then they also might want a farm development loan to purchase a large piece of property and stretch that payment out. And so a lot of times it's the applicant who wants to break it down, and we also review their farm plan and make suggestions of how about, we break it down, or how about we put it all together. That way you have one payment. Obviously, if you have a piece of equipment that you think you can pay off sooner, there's no reason to stretch that out to 30 years and just end up paying more interest. And then sometimes we go to the board and we present a loan, and the board says, you know what, we like this farm, we really want to approve it, but let's break it apart and see if the applicant's okay with that. Maybe we can have them get their equipment sooner, and the main reason for that would be so that the money comes back in so that we can lend it back out again. So the smaller things, let's make those a shorter loan so that it can go right back out again.
Okay, that makes sense. And then I think my last question is any of this ever deferred? So, for instance, I'm thinking of like the product processing. So now you have all the processing equipment, but you need 2 or 3 months to actually put it all together, because you have to order the labeling and you have to order, it takes a minute to get everything put together. Is any of it ever deferred, or are they just, 30 days later their first payment's due?
Nope. We have different payment plans. They can be deferred. It depends on the situation. It depends on the farm plan. It depends on the amount that they want to borrow. All of these are debated with the board to make the best decision. We have statutes that allow us to defer up to 5 years. It cannot be past that. But the majority of them are deferred by a few months, maybe a year. And then that way we know startup farms that are completely raw, they're not going to have a harvest for a couple of years. And so maybe they're paying interest-only payments for the first 3 years, or they're deferred up to a year, things like that. So we work with the clients to give them the best successful payment plan. There's no reason to have something paid monthly if they're not making anything until it comes November. And so we can have annual payments, quarterly payments, monthly payments are acceptable. So we just try to base it on the farm plan, how much they're borrowing, and the best harvest for them and how they can make that payment.
Okay, that makes sense. And that is kind of the fact that you meet farmers where they are, rather than just looking at just this, the paperwork, all the the business plan and all that, but looking at the fact that it is going to take them, a few months or a year or 2 years to start bringing in money. I'm sure that's very reassuring and very helpful for them as well. So tell me how folks get a hold of you.
So we have a website that you can go to. It's on the Division of Ag website. It has a little link that says programs, and it's going to be under there that says the Agricultural Revolving Loan Fund. We also have the direct line to the office, but my direct line would be 761-3853. That brings me right to me. We also have a second loan officer. All of our contact is on the website. We have, you can email us, you can call us, you can come in and visit us. We're more than happy at any time if somebody just wants to swing by, because sometimes sitting down and looking at the paperwork is so much easier than trying to read through it online. So you have all of those options. We also try to go to conferences and get the word out as much as possible, like the Delta Junction Farm Forum, the Farm Bureau, getting ready to go to the Food Policy Council at the end of this month, trying to get us out there so that people have a face that they can see and that direct communication versus I don't even know who I'm talking to because I'm calling or emailing them. So we're trying, like you said, to be there for the farmer as much as possible, and we want them to succeed. And if we set up a loan that is not good for anybody, then, it could be a great farm plan, but if it's not going to be able to be paid by the borrower, then they're just going to fail, and we don't want that for them. We want the best possible situation for them. And so we'll look at all of that. We'll modify the payment plan. We'll modify the loan style, things like that, just to make it the best for the borrower. And the number one thing, too, is to remember, when you get started, if things change, because it's a farm and it most likely will have to change, your plan may be great, but there's always, a drought or farm equipment breaks down. You can always come to us and request to modify your loan. the monthly payments aren't working. Can I switch it to annual payments? And we just take it to the board, show the reason why, and most of the time they understand and say, yeah, let's do that.
Great. Well, I think you've answered all my questions. I appreciate you taking the time. This was really good. Is there anything you'd like to add before we sign off?
As the loan officer for the Division of Agriculture, hopefully soon to be the Department of Agriculture, I am here for the farmer. I am not here to represent the state as far as making money, because it's not here to make money. We're here to help agriculture grow for the state of Alaska for food security. I am here for the farmer. I am here to walk you through it, be your friend, help you get that enthusiasm, find the best way to make your plan work, hopefully get you approved, and if something doesn't work out, be a connection point for questions, answers, research that you have questions about what seed potato I should use, things like that. That's what we're here for. And so never be afraid. No question is too big or too small, and no one's too silly. We want to be there for you.
Well, great. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. And if anyone has questions, they will definitely be reaching out to you. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye.
You've been listening to Ag Matters, covering positive agriculture stories from across Alaska on Big Cabbage Radio. Ag Matters is a production of Radio Free Palmer, recorded at our studios in Palmer, Alaska. For more information about this program, email manager@radiofreepalmer.org.